Thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor who's always positive, right? I don't do negative reviews. But every once in a while, I dig deep in my bag of compliments, and I use the term masterpiece. I only save that for the absolute best works that I review. And it's hard because I try to review things within a week of them coming out. So for the most part, I sort of have the masterpiece question mark. That's probably going to be the thumbnail to this video, because it's hard to tell. But I am confident in saying that Gigi's Recovery by the Murder Capital could be a masterpiece. Okay? You want to find out? Watch this review. You'll see why I think so. Now, the funny thing is, what came to my mind first, the word that kept coming into my mind when I listened to this album, was grand, meaning imposing and good. I don't know why the word grand kept on coming into my brain, but it did. The grand scope, the grand musicianship. You could tell the scope of the album, at least I could, the grand scope of the album, by its cover, which is a beautiful piece of modern art with a guy who's missing one shoe and kind of a sketchy drawing, just a very good piece of art, right? I think the scope of the album is implied by its kind of evocative title, Gigi's Recovery. Not really clear what that means, but it tells a story that you don't even really understand by the end of listening to the album. You can tell the grand scope of the album by its opening and ending, a song Exist and then Existence, this sort of larger question of existence as part of this album, along with other themes like heartbreak and loss and the nature of lies and truth. And you can tell the grand scope by the drummer, who gets increasingly interesting throughout the entire album, and of course the lead singer with his low voice, great command. So that was going to be my thumbnail, that this is a grand album. So just for fun, I looked up on Google Translate for how to say grand in Gaelic, because they are from Dublin, or Baile Atha Sirath, as it's called. And it turns out Gaelic isn't the term they use anymore, they just say Irish. So I looked up the term grand. So I'm like, all right, I'll just call this a Mahor album. But then I just happened to look underneath, and I happened to read this little piece of information. Do the Irish say grand? It turns out the true Irish meaning of the word grand means okay, fine, or adequate. Depending on the tone of voice and situation of usage, it can mean anything from very good to absolutely dreadful. So I'm not going to call this album grand anymore. I don't want to insult these artists in their native tongue, so I'll just go with magnificent. I hope that doesn't mean anything else. Now, the name Murder Capital, I thought they must be from, I don't know, Washington, D.C. or Baltimore or Chicago, but they're from Dublin. And it's not the murder capital of Europe. It's not the, it's not a murder capital in the traditional way. I actually found an article that said that Limerick was technically the murder capital of Europe for like a week in 2015. I thought maybe some of them are from Limerick, but I think it's more of a general thing. I think it's more based on what I was able to read from interviews they had before, a sense of a sort of cultural murder, that there's a sort of influx of money and power in the city of Dublin, which is sort of murdering the city itself, sort of murdering the people and murdering the culture. That's how I read it. Now, what I'm trying to I'm a music critic. Well, I'm a French professor. I have a hobby that I picked up in the lobby of being a music critic. And I like genres because it's helpful to think about the ways that music is in conversation with itself. And clearly, this is in conversation with this current post-punk moment, which has been the post-punk moment, and the underground hip-hop are the things that this channel has helped me to discover more than anything else. And whenever I use the term post-punk, people get mad at me. People got real mad when I said that Black Country New Road was post-punk. That's fine. But this is how I conceive of post-punk, and I've been working on these definitions for the last couple of years. The thing about post-punk is that there's a freedom from classic rock that is implied by the word punk. And then there's freedom from the conventions of punk that is implied by the word post. So when I say post-punk, what I mainly mean is rock and roll music that is not constrained by the often lamely masculine, boasting style of rock and roll that is what we think of when we think of the Rolling Stones, okay? But also free from frankly, the same kinds of emotions that one gets from listening to punk music. There's a certain freedom to be experimental or not. So, in reality, is this, a post-punk album? No, it's just a rock and roll album. It's a good rock and roll album. But it fits in this greater context of these artists who are making music with what the old people call real instruments, and they're making good music with what the old people call real instruments. And they're from Dublin, and so is Fontaine's DC, and, we're sort of getting a kind of European, Anglophone European post-punk moment happening here with some notable additions from America and Canada as well. There does appear to be something of, to borrow a term from hip-hop, an invisible renaissance in this post-punk music happening, where just every year multiple great albums, which one could call a masterpiece, keep coming out. I still haven't even decided if I think the last Black Midi album fits. It's funny. I think I called that a potential masterpiece, but the jury's still out. But this doesn't have much to do with that. This is not very close to the very worked styles of Black Midi or Black Country New Road. I think what this album does particularly well, or what this band does particularly well. Oh, this is the first time I've heard them. They released an album in 2019. I didn't review it. I'm sure it's good. I don't know. Is they are able to create a very good general atmosphere. And that grandness of scope leads you to feel like you're listening to something very important. Obviously, up front and center is the lead singer, James McGovern. I don't know if he's any relation to the person who should have won the election in 1972. But so part of this whole post-punk moment is a real ambiguity towards lead singers. Look at Black Country New Road. The dude just left, okay? The swaggery rock star lead singer, which really was present in a lot of the original post-punk acts. I'm thinking obviously of Marcy as an example. Don't tell me in the comments that it's not post-punk because it's jangle pop, so help me God. I'll go down in the comments. I will go down in the comments and fight you on that. They still had that, whereas I think in this sort of 21st century, maybe more self-reflective, maybe much more wary of the swagger of a lead singer, there's been a real de-emphasis of lead singers. So this guy, James McGovern, doesn't care about that. He is right up front. He's almost a crooner. He reminds me of the Swans, M. Gira, just because he has a low voice, kind of a commanding voice. I mean, if you just threw on like an extra layer of distortion in the back, you could call this goth music pretty easily. Reminds me a lot of lead singer of Depeche Mode, whose name is escaping me. I always hated Depeche Mode growing up. It turns out they're actually a pretty good band. You can tell me in the comments the name of the lead singer of Depeche Mode. And while you're there, smash the like bucket for me showing this amount of vulnerability. And even a little bit of the Doors. Even a little bit of Jim Morrison in there. Because, he just has this real ease and command that makes you sort of go, okay, this is a lead singer. Now, hopefully the pressure doesn't get to him like it did with Black Country New Road. With Isaac and that band, it's an interesting story. Fun alternate history for you to think about. What if Dave Grohl was the frontman for Nirvana? I think we would still have Nirvana. Because he handles it very well, because he's just a goofball. He's not like this tortured guy. He's just a fun goofball. Anyways, our bad. And the other aspect, musically, all the music is great. The bass player doesn't get much time to shine, but when he does, it's very good. There's multiple guitars happening here, very tasteful, played in different ways. Finger picking and single notes and chords and strumming. It's all lots of interesting stuff. But as you may or may not know, I was a drummer up until I gave up trying to be a rock star. And I love good drummers. And this guy, Dayar Muid, I made that sound Arabic. Maybe it is. Dayar Muid Brennan is the drummer, and I swear this is on purpose. If you listen to the beginning of the album, you hear the drummer a little bit, but as the album keeps going, he gets more and more present, doing more and more interesting things. He does the thing that I love that rock drummers do, which is he has a voice. He is capable of commanding parts of songs. He writes drum lines, which they don't have melody, right? Because they can't have melody, but they have shape and character. And he's not just trying to play what he can, he's trying to play what he should. This is my highest level of compliment that I can give to a drummer. I would give to Daya Murid Brennan. Please tell me how to pronounce that. It's probably one of those weird things like Sayoban, where it's, oh, that's just David. I don't know. Lyrically, I'm going to throw you for a loop and say this album, the album this reminds me the most of, has nothing to do with this whole post-punk moment, but it reminds me of Big Thief. Not so much in the way that it sounds, but just how goddamn poetic it is. I mean, he doesn't bother rhyming much of the time. I assume it's the lead singer who's writing the lyrics. If not, whoever it is writing them. Doesn't bother rhyming, has these interesting sort of agrammatical turns, these interesting thematics. It made me feel that way, where I felt like I was listening to music that was an excuse for poetry, and then I was listening to poetry that was an excuse for the music. The themes here are largely about existentialism and lies and self-hatred, a certain amount about drug abuse. But here's the secret, and this is why I think I love this album. Because the whole question of truth and reality is, as far as I can tell in my 5 years of studying it, is very important to this post-punk moment. You take, there's like an Idols album and the Proto-Martyr album. There's like a whole period of time where a whole bunch of basically like what is reality, what is truth, which makes sense, in the post-Trump, post-Johnson, hey, fascists are good, actually, era. But what makes me like this album... It's a breakup album. It's a Taylor Swift album. As far as I can tell, my reading of the album, tell me how I'm wrong, okay? Actually, the breakup was a metaphor for the European Union. I don't know, okay? I'm telling you what I hear in this album, all right? I read one article about this specific album from Manchester Guardian, who gave it a 5. Maybe they just call themselves The Guardian now, but I always think of them as Manchester Guardian. So that's cool. But what makes me love this album is that it's really a breakup album. As far as I can read it, this dude was with a woman named Gigi, and they broke up, and he's sad about it. I think that's the actual through line. And the reason that I love that is that it's vulnerable. It shows, much like Taylor Swift's value comes from her honesty and her emotional availability through her lyrics, that's what he's doing, albeit in a more obscure fashion. So that's how I read the album, and I really appreciate that. Because especially male rock stars, male lyricists are de-incentivized from presenting themselves as being vulnerable towards relationships with women. Okay, like you can talk about it. You say, you broke my heart, girl. What the F? Fine. But you can't write a whole album about it. Come on, you're not Taylor Swift. So that's the sense I get from this. So let me give you an example of what makes this such a great album. This is my favorite song of the year. I've only reviewed 3 new albums this year, but this is my favorite song of the year. Sorry, you're going to hear my baby upstairs. I named her Ethel. I didn't. You may also hear my wife walking around upstairs. I got a busy life. Click above the banana, above the map of Beilig Achta Schlaf to hear the song The Lie Becomes the Self. Do yourself a favor. Listen to this song. It is so unbelievably sweeping. Okay, so I'm a big Star Wars guy, right? And I particularly appreciate the Star Wars prequels, the movies made between 1999 and 2005. And there's a lot of things George Lucas is not recognized for. But one of the things that he does is he takes you on so many planets that when you get to the end of the movie, you've been on 7 different planets and you don't quite know how you got there, but you had this huge adventure each time until you finally get to that place. And sometimes music can do that, and that's what this music does for me. Did that get your subscription? That was a good point. You understand, it feels like we're moving and going to all these different places. I mean, it starts off with this kind of whistly sound, again, very grand. Then a low guitar and a voice. Reminds me very strongly of New Order. Peter Hook, he was lead singer of New Order, right? I saw people referring to Joy Division, and I get it, but I don't know. I'm a New Order guy. I prefer New Order to Joy Division. So feel free to dislike me now. But I just think they're a more interesting band, despite the fact the guy killed himself. But definitely that technique, which I guess both bands would use a lot of, a low singer, but just with a single note played on a guitar. And it's so intimate that you hear the fingers going up the fret. And then we had these lyrics, these typical poetic, obscure lyrics about truth and reality, not rhyming, about heartbreak. I saw you watching all the things you're not supposed to. I heard you selling thoughts in which you don't believe. Goes so low. Watching all the things you weren't supposed to, selling thoughts in which you don't believe. You know, that kind of weird semi-grammatical approach, like, I heard you selling thoughts in which you don't believe. Good job not ending with a preposition, but like, so you're selling these thoughts. And then just when you're trying to catch up what these lyrics are, a super great simple drum beat, all light snare hits and ride cymbals, tasteful, good, some piano comes in, some bass, guitar, still just one note. Ethereal sounds way in the back. There's a little bit of shoegazy stuff going on here. A little bit of My Bloody Valentine kind of all over this album, I would say. And in the back of my mind, you try to remain obscene, but I wasn't looking. A rare repetition in this album. The past just revealed its ugly self so well. The lyrics barely even fit. The past barely just received itself ugly so well. He's not rhyming. Obscene doesn't rhyme with looking, doesn't rhyme with so well, but I wasn't looking. The past revealed itself ugly so well. I don't know what it means, but I understand how it feels. It feels like a good poem that I am on the verge of understanding. Then we get to this little quiet point that builds in this little crescendo where the drummer's hitting an open hi-hat, which has a very particular sound. The guitar almost sounds like a horn. These little instrumental breaks with a warbled guitar and the simple drums, and then all of a sudden he's smashing on the cymbals as opposed to the open hi-hat. And then we get to the chorus, which is just with the voice at first. So everything drops out. So many dynamics, so many layers. Don't get it twisted, the lie becomes the self. Don't get it twisted. Okay, like, thank you, Tom York, for influencing a whole generation of songwriters to throw in cliches all over the place and then recontextualize them and make them interesting. Don't get it twisted. I'm like, that's not a good line. But the lie becomes the self. That's the title of the song. Fascinating idea. The lie becomes the self. And that's true. True thing about me, I don't lie. I just don't do it. I just don't lie. I just don't lie. I made that decision 7 years ago. You should try it. Just never lie. Your life gets a lot easier. Because it is true, the more you lie, the more that becomes the self. Is he talking about this relationship he was in? Is he talking about this woman? He's talking about this heartbreak? He's talking about society? I don't know, but there's some great bass work here. Probably the best bass work on the album. Very subtle. You have to listen to it multiple times to hear. Then the end of the chorus is cool, funky drums, interesting snare hits, where it says, lies outrun the self. So that like lies overcome you and take over. And then self gets echoed. And then just bass and drums. And then we get the second verse. And the first verse was just one note and the singing. And now we have the opposite of that. A full chord strumming. It sounds like an acoustic guitar, maybe a semi-acoustic guitar. It just keeps on building and building, especially after the word teeth. It sounds almost aggravating. Some piano in there. There's a gutter. There in the gutter starlight, we find ourselves complete. That's why I can't resist if you can't resist it. Those bloodied stains between your teeth. Fuck standing at the foot of your mirror. Here's where the piano comes in. Almost Zooropa era U2 distortion. I'm not just saying that because they're Irish. I might be saying that just because they're Irish. Fuck standing at the foot of the mirror, a clown's reflection, and I am revealed. This kind of self-hatred, the gutter, starlight, another theme, lots of stars in this album, bloodied stains between your teeth. I assume that means either blood or wine. And then the second chorus, there's no build-up this time, straight into it. Then this great, odd instrumental bit, where it's just a rock band. Hey, what happened? Why is there just a rock band now? Guitar, drums, and bass. The least interesting lyrics. Hey, yeah, you've seen it as it is. Ah. Even the vocals here do remind me again of Bono. You know what? I'm going out on a limb. I'm not saying. My theory is this, that even if, I don't know what their relationship is to U2, but I imagine that U2 is to Ireland what the Beatles are to the rest of the world. That like you just cannot escape their influence or their omnipresence, so that some of their stylistics infuse, I imagine, even the most ardent haters of U2 in Ireland. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm being an American bigot. I can handle it, okay? I've been called a culture vulture. I've been called a bigot, a chauvinist, all those things. You can tell me those in the comments, but please justify your answers, okay? Because if I'm going to be criticized, I want to know why I'm wrong. But that's the sense that I get. Very, very straightforward. This little bridge here, some stray notes falling in the back, and then these great whining sounds. And again, it reminds me a lot of My Bloody Valentine, reminds me a lot of also of Radiohead, where they're just able to throw in just the right kind of slightly aggravating whining sounds in the back, which make it feel more grand. Not grand in the Irish sense, grand in the English sense, the American sense. some bells, guitars, these individual notes plick, then the drummer is doing this crazy thing on the toms. Like, seriously, I couldn't play this, you know? The rest of the album, I feel like I couldn't play. He's doing these really fast little things on the toms. But again, it's perfect. It's exactly what the song needs. This is what I'm talking about. It's almost melodic. It's like it's its own part of the song. It's not just a drummer. It's a drummer who's saying, hey, I'm going to add to the emotion of the song. And that's the thing about this instrumental break and about the instrumental break of the whole album. Every song has some kind of instrumental break. With the exception of one song, that instrumental break is the actual emotional heart of the music. So even though this whole thing feels like it's just for the lead singer, the instrumental breaks are so moving that they do as much work as these heartfelt lyrics. Heartfelt. Heartfelt isn't a word. Don't want to get under your goat on that one. It's just this great drum beat, all this talent here, some like flute sounds, this great crescendo, probably the most epic song on the album. And then it ends with, what is it all about? What is it all about if I can't hear your laugh, if I can't hear you laughing? So I think in the end, this whole big existential question and the nature of lies and truth fundamentally goes back to this breakup with who I assume is Gigi. Might be the daughter from Gilmore Girls, like the baby from Gilmore Girls all grown up. Who knows? Her name is Gigi. I've watched the Gilmore Girls TV show twice, all the way through. It's an interesting show. All right, I'm going to go through the rest of the album a little bit quicker. I'm going to start off with the first track, Existence. No relation to the David Cronenberg movie. Long, whiny introduction. Almost sounds like one of those prayer bowls. Then these discordant sounds join in. And then just these lyrics. Strange feeling I am dealing with. I can't admit it if I lose my grip. The morning I thought I'd skip. The day forever became what if. This day forever became what if. Existence fading, existence fading, existence exist. The nature of trying to hold on to existence. No real chorus. Orchestral nightmare at the end, but it's actually leading perfectly into the next song. Part of what makes this album so grand, not in the Irish sense, so magnificent, so imposing, so impressive is this scope, and it happens where the songs they go very well together. This is not a collection of singles. This is an album with a capital A, which again is important. I don't think you can make a masterpiece that is comprised of singles and filler. A masterpiece has to be a cohesive album where the track list makes sense and it fits together. Crying, the shape of this whole album makes so much more sense on the second or third album, especially this Crying song. The drums are playing a brush, kind of a funky beat. Sounds like very, again, kind of Swans-like. From what I read in that Manchester Guardian article, they were apparently known for only being sad. So this is my second British, damn it, they're not British. Second person from the part of the world that Americans think is all part of Great Britain. Republic of Ireland is not part of Great Britain. But, you know, that sort of Anglophone section of Europe. Let's call it that. Because I reviewed Etta Marcus last month, and she had the same thing where she was just pigeonholed as being a sad girl. So, hey, British media, knock it off trying to pigeonhole people into just being sad or not. You've been doing it since the goddamn Smiths. Probably before. I will wait for you. I am crying. Is this our end? It's funny because he uses the term, I am asking for a friend. And this is, again, that Radiohead thing, the Tom York thing of like using a cliche and then making it like recontextualized, which I don't always like. I think it can be kind of cheesy. But here, I like it because saying I'm asking for a friend is always when someone is pretending not to be vulnerable. Whenever anyone says that, you know, they say like, what do you do when it burns when you pee? I'm asking for a friend, okay? Like, that's the joke. So him saying that is important because later in the song, he's saying, I'm asking for myself. So he puts out this false face and then he rejects the false face because this album is fundamentally about his vulnerability, which coming from a deep-voiced, badass lead singer absolutely rules, okay? That's why you watch this channel, for that kind of incisive commentary. It's like you're reading David Marsh. It absolutely rules. But you know, the color drips from your eyes. Is this our end? I mean, seriously, is this our end? He might as well be Tay-Tay sitting there in her bedroom writing, is this our end? Ho, ho, is this our end? Ho, are you just my friend? Oh, 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 I'm my friend. Oh, get Max Martin on this puppy. I just wrote a Taylor Swift song with James McGovern. And they do a crazy thing here, which I've never heard anybody do. They turn up the gain on the mixer. So normally when you make things louder, you make the instruments slightly louder. It's a little bit gentle. But here, some MFer in the studio just took the entire song and just turned it up. Why not? Real emotional heart of the song. Again, the drums are loud. There's these stabbing sounds. It's lush and layered. God damn, this is a good album. Except for the next song. I don't love the next song that much. Return My Head. It's a little bit more straightforward, kind of basic indie rock. I don't know, like Return My Head is sort of like in relationship to like Turn My Head. Maybe this is a post-breakup thing, and that's kind of interesting, like Return Me to Myself. I like the vulnerability of his voice, but I think this is one of the weaker tracks on the album. But that's fine, because that's followed up by Ethel, which apparently is a single now. Great, almost pavementy, sloppy chords, but they're played like the chords themselves are formed kind of sloppily, like they're not very clean chords, but they're played very clearly. Simple guitar over cymbals, kind of a tweaked bell sound, all this charisma in his voice, 10 pages of her favorite book, All Right, Leave on the Light, and I'm Feeling in the Evening, with her blue-eyed soul on her shield, but I can't quite make it out. Really feels like he's processing this relationship. That's why I wore this shirt, by the way, was to have my eyes blue. My eyes change color depending on what shirt I'm wearing. So you see they're blue now. Just more large scope. And he's talking about like being strung out on love and all the friends being flying high. I do feel like this happens a lot on second and third albums by indie rock and post-punk bands and all that stuff. They just get exposed to all these drugs and they're trying to deal with all these drugs. I get that feeling from this album, that a lot of the band is just trying to deal with the drugs that come in when you have a little bit of success. Interesting theme, about being with this woman. If you have a kid, call her Ethel, hold on to her tight, this sort of dream of like, oh, what if I was still together with her, then we'd have a kid, we'd name her Ethel, okay? Kind of laughing at the end makes it mysterious. The stars will leave their stage. Cool, plunky electronic piano intro. Voice comes in very intimate, slightly distorted and compressed, and the drums are slightly distorted and compressed. This is some of my favorite production on the album because they did a thing that was interesting, but they did it just subtly. More talking about lies, always frayed. Like everything feels frayed and like it's about to fall apart. The chorus is just full crooner. Just like ships in the night, promising to collide. I'm making fun of it. I'm goofing. I'm clowning, but it's very good. Almost like a detuned guitar solo. My back itches. It's okay. I'll deal with it later. And then like when he sings the title, he just sounds so much like MGR from The Swans. And if I love The Swans. I've loved The Swans for 20 years. I'm very, 25, for a long time. And I love when people are able to sing in a low register and have it work emotionally. Very gnarly instrumental outro, these like crunchy sounds. It's like drunken whammy guitars. Again, every song has two hearts. The singer and the band. And they work together. Like a cow has 4 hearts. A cow has 2 hearts. A cow has 4 stomachs. Every song is a 2. Does any animal have 2 hearts? God, my wife would know that. She's a scientist. Imagine a cow that has 2 hearts, okay? That's what this band is. And they have to beat together, okay? A belonging, necessary kind of slow part here. Kind of slows things down at the end of the first half of the album. Regarding your freedom, I'll have what's left of it if you don't need it. You've lived through my weakness. It shines on you even if you don't see it then. Necessary downbeat. Regarding your freedom, I'll have what's left if you don't need it is a beautiful line, a beautiful question. And again, it feels like he's still in this process of having this conversation with Gigi. Then the second half of the album begins with The Stamp, The Lie Becomes a Self, then 1,000 Lives. Not the strongest track, even though it is very much based on this funky drum beat, allowing the drummer to take the lead, lightly distorted. Just, this is what I'm talking about, the increasing presence of the drummer. Here, the guitar is like very, what I call Western, which is like single note, very strong, driving melodic guitar lines. Reminds me, I think sort of like Neil Young, that kind of style. I just wish I had more time with this album. I mean, I guess I could have waited to release this, but I want to do it quickly, tomorrow Lil Yachty's coming out. But I love the part where everything just cuts out. I get the sense that when you listen to this album a lot, like I can see myself in December doing the best of the year and putting this up near the top and just saying like, oh, that part where it cuts out, because I am buying this album. Creepy, crawly finger guitar lines, jamming with the drummer. It's great. Then we get to We Had to Disappear. Completely? No. This is agrammatical poetry. The only place to go from here, that's all we had to disappear. Beautiful, mysterious, What's he talking about? Is this about existence? Is this about his relationship? I think the answer is yes. I think it's about both. The pulsing waves that miss the moon will rise and fall. Each day will too. I'm dancing in the waves. Beautiful, evocative. There's a weird reverse sexism, I think, where usually female vocalists are more credited with being poetic than male vocalists are. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say we need to stop and appreciate this guy's lyrics as being more than just sort of standard rock lyrics. Not more than, different than standard rock lyrics. I don't think standard rock lyrics are worse than poetry, but some are read much more and hear much more like somebody who's just thinking poetry out loud. No chorus in here, but these great interstitial moments. This is the first time that I asked myself right here, right there, I wrote the word masterpiece. On my fourth listen, I'm like, I don't know, man, this is so good. The drummer starts hitting in these offbeats at a certain point, and everything drops out, and then it's just a voice and this trilling guitar. It just keeps building these odd trilling sides. The drummer's just doing so much, so many small differences. I just want to listen to this. I just want to like live in this song. I want to live on this planet that he's taken us to. Just emotional punches every time. Both of those cows' hearts just beating and beating. Do pigs have two hearts? There's some animal that have two hearts. That doesn't make any sense. Anyways, Only Good Things. Where'd this song come from? It's like, I think these are tap licks, like like, you know, Eddie Van Halen, like a shuffly drum. This is kind of poppy. It actually reminds me, I think if you played the song right next to Everybody Wants to Rule the World from Tears for Fears, you'd hear them just matching very nicely. I don't think it's an imitation, but I think it goes quite nicely. It was apparently the first single off the album, so this makes sense because it's the least sad song. I think they're trying to show, hey, we can do things. We can say happy things, like good things. Show me to think only good things. That's not actually happy, but that's the idea. More memorable drumming in the instrumental part, beautiful bridge, more great poetry, jewels in your eyes like Vega at night. I think that refers to a constellation. There are lots of stars here, you know, the stars in the stage, and earlier the stars in the gutter. There's lots of stars, very star-themed here. It's a retrospect, all the magpies, they'd rob you blind. If I'd written it, have you written back? Agrammatical poetry, just nice. Post-bridge, electric guitar, very clean voice. Second to last song, Gigi's Recovery, more grand scope. And here we have George Michael Bluth, finally featured on a song, playing the woodblock. The woodblock is a very tricky instrument to get right because you never really want to hear it. But here, George Michael Bluth, along with the drummer Brennan, is playing the woodblock just amazingly. So what's cool about it is, you're going to think I'm crazy, but George Michael gets emotion out of the woodblock. How? Well, because he switches up its frequency from 1, 2, 3, 4, like a standard metronome, to 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, and then when the drummer comes in, when Brennan comes in, it just works so perfectly. And it's very tricky playing along with the metronome, but it doesn't feel like he's playing along with the metronome. It feels like he's playing along with a very, very baby talk instructed woodblock player. I have a fever, and all that can heal me is this woodblock playing, swirling synths and plucked guitars. Just an amazing song. It builds and builds, planet to planet. Gigi, you never left me partly. What does that mean? Why do you write like that? Why are you such a poet, McGovern? Gigi, you never left me partly? I'm going to admit, I thought he was speaking like a stereotypical Irishman saying, you never left my party. Gigi, you never left me party. But that wasn't a good accent at all. Into the void you brought me, believe me, the sense he's being brought into this void. So this relationship is like a void. Like, he's not going to have a kid named Ethel. He's in the gutter. He looks at himself in the mirror and he thinks he's a piece of garbage. And here he is put into a void. I can see the skyline flying by my window. I can feel it all flow. I am not my sorrow. Every feeling is borrowed. I don't know if this is a reference to Kirk Van Houten's album from the early 90s, Can I Borrow a Feeling? Every feeling is borrowed. This is important, though, because when you have big feelings, when you feel bad, that always comes with the feeling that your feeling is unique. And unfortunately, /fortunately, there's no feeling you can have that is unique. They're all being felt and have been felt by literally billions of people of all time. Whatever feeling you have over there at home, you're sitting there, you think that no one's ever felt this way before, and everyone's felt that way. Or hundreds of billions of people have felt that way throughout human existence. Okay, this is the last time I'm going to reference U2. It's just my little pet theory, okay? It's just my little pet theory. But the drumming with the double hi-hat, it's so New Year's Day. I like U2. I'm not going to crap on U2, but I imagine if I came from Ireland, I would not like them as much. But just some great extra snare work there. He's just not recovering from Gigi. He wanted to get married with her and have a baby, but everything was lies and deceit and druggy friends and lack of clarity and self-hatred. And frankly, he's just too young to make it work. My little piece of advice for Peter McGovern, whatever his first name is, don't worry about it. There'll be others. Don't marry Gigi, okay? You might end up marrying Gigi and you think it's great. It's all chaotic and bad. And it's not going to work. Wait for the next one. The final track is called Exist, acoustic guitar, very much tagging from the beginning. This morning took ownership to stay forever in my own skin, existence changing, existence exist. It's like he's talking to himself, just saying, please keep existing. Now, with the first song and last song being connected, I'm going to put forth an idea that I cannot flesh out right now, but if you're on the Murder Capital Reddit, does that exist? Probably does. If I have a Reddit, they probably have a Reddit, a subreddit. I sound like an old man. This album might be structured in a ring because I think existence. So a ring is where the first and last, second to last, like where it forms a ring where there's sort of echoes. Actually, that's how the first 6 Star Wars movies are kind of made as well. So, you have the first song, Existence, and then the last song, Exist. And I think Crying and Gigi's Recovery spiritually go well together. Return My Head, Only Good Things. Ethel and We Had to Disappear go well together. The Stars Will Leave Their Stage leads well into 1,000 Lives. And Belonging at the turn goes perfectly with the lie that becomes the self. I don't know. That's just a small theory. So there you go. There's my review of this just absolutely awesome album. I'm happy I found it. I'm mad because it's still January and I don't get a lot of views on my videos in January. So there's just not going to be a lot of people watching this video. So hey, if you're one of those people, have you heard this album? What did you think of it? These are my Patreons. They give me money and I'm going to go buy this album. I'm going to go to Bandcamp. I'm going to buy that album right now. Okay? Because we need to support music. And when music is this good, we need to support it. Okay. Till next time, there's the camera.